What is going on YouTube? Gabnus here and welcome to the 20th episode of the TechPills weekly live stream. Alright, let's jump right to the first news of today. The community fork of Qt could be really coming. So, the Qt controversy regarding the possibility of new releases to being restricted to paid customers for the first 12 months is back on the news. In fact, there's been some discussion in the KDE mailing lists, and some Qt stakeholders apparently, including the consulting firm KDAB, the Qt browser developers, and the QGIS project, have expressed their willingness to back a potential Qt fork. This fork, of course, should be considered the nuclear option in case the Qt company and the KDE Free Qt Foundation should be unable to reach an agreement that would allow the open source community to have access to the latest Qt release without having to wait an arbitrary amount of time because of unclear commercial reasons. As I've said already multiple times regarding this topic, this kind of behavior from the Qt company is extremely hostile towards the open source community, and honestly, I don't think it should be tolerated. So many open source projects depend on Qt, and they cannot just be treated like second-class citizens. Again, a fork of Qt would mean a lot of work and pressure on the shoulders of the community, and would possibly mean a slowdown in development for the core KDE projects and other projects involved in the fork. But this said, I think that it would ultimately lead to an overall better platform for open source development. Now, let's just close this topic with a funny thing. One of the most popular proposed names for the possible toolkit fork would be KT. Well, it's pretty obvious if you ask me, but I think it's still quite catchy. But what do you guys think? Are you in favor or against the fork? What do you think of the name KT? Let me know in the chat or in the comments. All right, let's move on to the next news of today. Pop! OS 2004 is now finally officially out. So the new release of Pop! OS 20.04 based on Ubuntu 2004 LTS is out. On top of all the new stuff we've already talked about regarding vanilla Ubuntu, this new release also marks the debut of the long-awaited Pop! Shell extension. Pop! Shell is, it's a window tiling Pop! Shell is a tiling window management extension for GNOME Shell that aims to offer an experience similar to what you get in a window manager like i3, with automatic window tiling and a keyboard-centric workflow for navigation, but with all of the best bells and whistles that a full GNOME desktop can offer. Now, I've been trying the Pop! Shell extension on my Arch Linux system multiple times now, but honestly, I didn't find it to be particularly stable yet. I think that it still needs some work, and some rough edges have to be filed down. So I don't know. Still, I think that if they're shipping it, they're confident of their project. And at the end of the day, Pop! OS is still one of the most popular Linux distros out there, particularly for newcomers to Linux in general. I suppose they know what they're doing with this, and I hope that they manage to iron out most of the imperfections and, you know, the little paper cuts that the extension currently has in its current state. Personally, I wouldn't mind using it myself if it was a little bit more stable. Another very important addition to this new release of Pop! OS, as I anticipated in the last episode talking about the beta, is the improved Flatpak support. It is now possible, in fact, to use Flatpak and install and manage your favorite applications with Flatpak directly from the Pop Shop software center included in Pop! OS, which, fun fact, is based on the Elementary OS app store you can find, well, on Elementary OS. And of course, the guys over at Elementary did already a lot of work for with including Flatpak support in the store. So I mean, of course, I think that there have been some collaboration with the Pop! OS folks, and we're seeing now the result of this collaboration in the form of the added Flatpak support in the Pop Shop application. Now, this is particularly interesting in my opinion because of the, well, amount of additional steps that like normal users have to take to have the same level of Flatpak support in vanilla Ubuntu. Particularly with this latest release, Ubuntu has been kind of, I don't want to say hostile, but it's sort of like they don't want you to use anything but Snap. Even apt is kind of, I mean, I have the impression that they put more effort into Snap that they have been giving to, like, the standard package manager for Ubuntu, which is apt. They have the reasons for it. I don't want to discuss the reasoning behind it necessarily, but of course, not everyone uses Snap, and I mean, some users prefer to use like the normal package manager, some users prefer to use Flatpak or AppImage, and, well, some others just like Snap. And the same thing goes for developers. Of course, a developer has to choose to put their application on a particular platform, be it Ubuntu repos or PPA or Snap or Flatpak. The developer has to actively choose to target that platform. And in some cases, for example, me, I chose not to target Snap because, one, support for Arch isn't all that great, and I use Arch, so I wouldn't want to use a VM just to test out the Snap release. It's too much overhead, and at that point I could just release a deb file, a deb package like any other standard package. But I think that Flatpak, for what it is currently the best option for desktop applications, for universal desktop packages on Linux. But that's just my opinion, of course. But of course, other developers also have opinions, and at the end of the day, the user has to use the system and install applications. And with vanilla Ubuntu, if someone wants to install, for instance, one of my packages, one of my apps, or something else that's not available as a Snap, they have to go through the hassle of configuring Flatpak, which could be included by default and isn't. So I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, despite the fact that I don't really like Snaps myself, of course, you can still use them on Pop! OS, and I actually use them myself as well. I use the Nextcloud Snap on my Ubuntu server to have an easy to set up Nextcloud instance. So it's not, I mean, it's not like I hate on Snaps, but I just think that, again, on desktop, they're just better at this point. Anyway, this just makes Flatpak, I mean, I'm not the only one that thinks that Flatpak is the better platform. Because Pop! OS is just the last of the many distributions that are adding Flatpak support by default, including, of course, Fedora, but also Linux Mint and Elementary OS. But what do you guys think? Are you excited with this new Pop! OS release? Will you use the tiling pop shell extension? And again, what do you think about the whole Flatpak or Snap thing? And do you think that Pop! OS did the right thing by including Flatpak instead of Snap? Let me know as always in the chat or in the comments. I'm really curious about what you guys have to say about this. Let's jump right to the next news of today. GNOME 3.37.1, the first milestone towards 3.38. So of course 3.36 is out already, and it's it's already a huge success with many more popular distros adopting it as a default and the users enjoying the new and improved GNOME experience, but most importantly the huge performance improvements that we've been seeing with the latest release of GNOME. But of course, development doesn't just stop, and here we are talking about the first step towards the new big release of GNOME. So let's talk about some of the most interesting changes so far. There's been some work on the Evolution data server, the Evolution backend, for adding support for Nextcloud nodes. And honestly, this is a very interesting one for me, as I've struggled to find a decent native Linux app to manage my Nextcloud nodes, and soon I'll probably just be able to use the GNOME Notes app. So that's pretty great for me and for anyone else using Nextcloud, and in particular Nextcloud nodes. I should point out that the application that I currently use on my desktop to manage Nextcloud nodes is QO Notes, but while it's a great app, I just don't like the approach of it, because it's very feature rich, and you can really do so much with it. But honestly, all I need is a simple notes application, and I haven't got that with QO Notes. I ignore most of the features, but the UI is cluttered with a lot of stuff that I don't use, so I'd prefer to have a sleeker, simpler notes app just like GNOME Notes. Another addition is the fact that GNOME Maps now has a mobile-friendly responsive UI. So surely this is a great news for any one of you guys out there using Linux phones. You'll soon be able to use GNOME Maps to, well, at least see maps. I don't think that GNOME Maps currently has any navigation features, but still, well, I mean, it's one step towards feature completeness with other more popular smartphones. There also been there have also been many improvements to the Epiphany browser, also known as GNOME Web, including an option to import bookmarks from Chrome and Chromium, as well as from HTML files. There's also a new engine for GNOME Calendar supporting WebCal URLs. So if you're using those, with 3.38, you'll be able to use them in GNOME Calendar as well. Finally, the last noteworthy change that I wanted to mention is a redesigned UI for GNOME Screenshot. And I mean, that's long overdue. The current UI for GNOME Screenshots is kind of old. I don't really like it. Could be better. And I have seen some designs for newer versions, some mockups. So I think that they have implemented those mockups. I'm glad to see that. And one other interesting thing about GNOME Screenshot is that it can now be built without X11 support if you're willing to rock like a pure 100% Wayland experience. Of course, this is more for future compatibility, where, I don't know, in some years from now, possibly we will have systems that have just Wayland without any trace of Xorg. So, of course, this is something that will be needed at some point. So, it's good that it's here already. So, of course, we're seeing very interesting changes already with this first milestone again for the new GNOME release. And, of course, the new release is already shipping out to be pretty great. So, let's see what they're going to do moving forward. What do you guys think? Do you like these new features? Do you think that there's something that the GNOME team should be focusing on? Let me know, as always, in the comments or in the chat. All right, moving on to the next news of today. Raspberry Pi announces a $50 high quality camera module. That was unexpected. So, the Raspberry Pi Foundation just recently announced a new and kind of weird product. Again, a high quality camera module, of course, for the Raspberry Pi. This new camera module is a very interesting and unexpected product, to be honest. It's basically a very nice 12.3 megapixel Sony IMX477 sensor attached to a minimal PCB for Raspberry Pi connectivity and a lens mount on top. That's right, I said lens mount. This new camera module has interchangeable lenses supporting off-the-shelf C and CS mount lenses, and the compatibility, is pretty wide, and of course you can adapt other lenses that you already own to the C or CS mount. The module itself again costs $50, which is pretty inexpensive for, well, should be a pretty high quality camera. While the two officially supported lens options that we currently have, that they are a 6mm CS mount lens and a 16mm C mount, they cost $25 and $50 respectively. So considering camera prices, these are pretty inexpensive. According to their FAQ, this new module will support any Raspberry Pi from the original Pi 1 Model B onward. So compatibility wise, I'm pretty sure you're covered. If you have a Raspberry Pi, you will be able to use this new module. And it will also not be a replacement for the regular or the infrared versions of the existing camera module V2, since of course they have, well, different use cases. At the end of the day, this new module should be pretty big once you consider the lens mount and all of the, all of the casing or anything that will help you to mount this thing anywhere. Oh, and it also has a like a 1/4-inch thread mount to mount the camera itself, the camera module itself, on a tripod. Of course, it depends on the kind of lens that you're using. If you're using a big lens, you probably want to mount the lens and let the little module hang in. But anyway, I'm very curious of what will come out of this, and I can already envision open source DIY DSLR-like cameras, high quality security cameras, and webcam replacements. Probably the most interesting option is like the open source DSLR-like camera. I wouldn't mind playing around with something like that, and of course, being entirely open source, anyone can write their own software on top of it, and I don't know. The possibilities are really endless at this point with this kind of product. What do you guys think? Are you excited for this new high quality camera module? Do you have any interesting project in mind? Let me know in the chat or in the comments. And with that, guys, I think this is gonna wrap it up for today's episode of the TechPills Weekly live stream. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you like this video, please make sure to press the thumbs up button down there. Also remember to subscribe to my channel if you want more of this. Make sure to join the TechPills community at techpills.technology/community. You can also find all of the relevant QR codes on my left. So guys, thank you again very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.